Hello there makers, it is Jo here, and today we are here for our next episode of our Fabric Masterclass. Today we're going to be looking at cosy flannel. Flannel is a soft fabric in the woven category, and we're going to take a closer look at how to sew it, how to cut it a little bit more today, and what we can make with it. This series is linked to our fabric guide, which is a comprehensive guide to 70 of our most popular base cloths. It has a chapter at the start all about how fabric is made, so if you understand that a little bit more, it will help you to understand how the fabric will move and what its characteristics will be. There's a section on fibre types, so flannel is mostly 100% cotton, but sometimes it has other mixed fibres, so if you know a little bit about the fibres, they will help you to understand also how the fabric will behave. In the last chapter, there's a double page spread on each of the fabrics featured in this series, and you can get a little bit more information about each specific fabric. Let's take a look at the flannel page. Flannel is a woven fabric. It has a difficulty rating of 2 out of 5. It's usually 100% cotton, but it can have other fibres mixed in. And here it describes the characteristics of the fabric, which is that it's a soft, brushed, textured fabric. There's some fabric statistics. It normally comes in a solid colour, but you can get prints, which are generally checks plaids and tartans. It's ideal for making shirts, dresses, pyjamas and loungewear, and you'll get the sample in the book. This has the 100 grams per square metre, so the sample is 150 grams per square metre, so you can use that to compare to the one on the website on how thick your fabric is going to be. This one is much thicker. You use a normal universal needle, matching the weight of your fabric, and we're going to take a look at some sewing tips for sewing flannel. I've used flannel today to make a Carolyn pyjama set. It's a fantastic pattern. It's one of those high-end pyjama patterns that's classic, and it will last for years and years and years. I've made about 5 pairs now in different sizes, so you'll see my pattern pieces when I cut out are a little bit scruffy because I cut out for different size people. The flannel is perfect for this because this one is a lightweight. It's 150 grams per square metre, but you can get flannels in different weights. You might also see different words used, so you might see flannel, flannelette, brushed cotton, winciette, and they're all part of that flannel family. You might also see the word flannel in our coating section, so if the flannel is made from wool, then you will see it as a thicker version over there. So if you're looking for something for a coat or a jacket or something winter, like a winter dress, you might need to go and look in the coating section. Let's take a look at the different types of flannel that we can get. If we can look at them close up, you'll really get to see the texture and the coziness of the fabric. Flannel is a soft woven fabric. Its characteristics are the soft texture, and that is from the brushing that happens at manufacture. So it has sometimes it's called brushed cotton because it just feels a little bit fuzzy on the texture. Sometimes it's fuzzy on one side and not on others, and sometimes it's fuzzy on both. Traditionally, flannel was made out of wool, which is why you see this fabric sometimes turning up in the coating category. So thicker versions in wool will end up there. They're suitable for jackets, winter skirts, suits and that kind of thing. The one we're looking at today is a lighter version. So this is a flannel that would be used for shirting, pyjamas, shirt dresses and dresses. The fabric doesn't have any stretch in either direction. It's a woven fabric, so when you pre-wash it, you might find that you get some fraying, and this will help you to decide how you're going to finish your seams. You can also get a heavier weight winciette. This one's much thicker. It's suitable for jacket making and also for really thick cozy pyjamas. Pattern wise, you'll normally find it's in checks or plaids. So this is a Minerva core range one. This has been used to make a pair of loungewear trousers. It's got pockets. It's really cozy, and you'll need to be doing some sort of pattern matching or pattern balancing. Because of its brush texture, you might find that flannel pills a little bit over time, where the brush texture starts to roll into little balls, but it has a really long life and it is warm and insulating. Because most flannels have a check or a plaid or a tartan, I've taken a little bit more time to show you cutting out today, because you might need to do some pattern matching or pattern balancing. This is cotton flannel. Flannel isn't just for pyjamas and loungewear, so let's take a look at the maker gallery and be inspired by our Minerva makers. Starting off with the thicker flannel, this is a brushed cotton flannel that makes a great overshirt. The same weight will make a jacket. It's got that really nice stiffness to it. You can also find flannels in our coating section. They're great for winter dresses and coats. There's other flannels, brushed flannel for tops, casual trousers, lighter fabrics for dresses and tunics. You'll need to check the grams per square metre to find the thickness of your flannel, because they will be different weights suitable for different garments. If you find the lighter ones, you can use those for pyjamas, like this is the Victoria top made into pyjamas, the Carolyn pyjamas or men's pyjamas. You can also use it to make summer weight ones where you have a smaller pyjama set. The thicker ones are great for coats, men's shirts, either in prints, tartans, checks or solids. If you saw something that you liked there, or you really like the look of this flannel fabric but want some pattern inspiration, then do keep your eyes peeled for Vicky's video, which will run alongside this one, where she will pick out some patterns that are really suitable for flannel fabric. Making the correct pattern and fabric pairing comes over time, and the more you absorb information, the better you get at it. My cutting section is a little bit longer than usual today because I'm working with a check fabric, so I just want to make sure that my pyjama bottoms have this dominant blue line running from hip to hip, and I can't pattern match everywhere, but I'd like to make sure that I get a really good pattern balance on my pyjama bottoms. If you're cutting out flannel, especially with a check, and that is a dominant print on our flannel fabrics, then you might want a few tips on pattern matching, but we do have a video here all about pattern matching, and also you can use a couple of different techniques. So I'm just going to show you one. So the place that I want to pattern match is on the front crotch, because I want this top dominant dark line to be running across the front of my body and not to have two of those dark lines jarring right at the centre front. So the first thing I've done is to mark on the 1.5 centimetre seam allowance. I'm cutting my fabric in a single layer because I can't guarantee that if I fold this in half that my squares will all be exactly stacked up on top of each other. So I'm going to cut each piece in its single layer, and I'm going to have to remember to flip the pattern. I'm going to mark on the seam line where the intersections are for the checks. Just going to do that with a pencil. And then I'm ready to cut this out, because this edge will not be where I'm pattern matching. Under here is where I'll be pattern matching, and I'll be able to cut the partner to this after I've cut this one out, and then I can flip over the fabric and check the pattern match. So lay one out, mark the seam allowance, mark where the pattern intersects, and then cut out. Now that I have cut it out, I can peel back that seam allowance and look for the pattern underneath that I need to match up to. Particularly if you're working with flannel, which is today's video, it's a good idea to cut your flannel with all your pieces going in the same direction, because it will have a slightly brushed texture, and that is like having a nap, so you want to make sure that all the brushing goes in the same way. The pattern is very similar on both sides, so it's a good idea to make sure that you keep your cutting to the same side all of the time and the same direction all of the time. I'm going to flip the pattern piece over, and now I can look for the pattern. and match up the crotch. I might get that square a little bit smaller, but I'm definitely going to have a correct match along there. So if I take away the seam allowance, then that is what we'll have along my centre front. There's a long grain line on here, and without seeing the paper pieces, I can't tell if that's right. So I'm just going to pin that edge down so that I can very carefully remove the paper piece from underneath and reposition it so that I can get all of this smooth and correctly on grain. My pattern piece is flipped over, and now I can reapply the paper piece. I need to make sure that the grain line is running correct, and that will help me to get better pattern balancing down the side seams. If you want to match up the out seam as well, at least with a pattern balance, then look for the hip notch. That's really useful. So the hip notch is at the top of a white one. So it's at the top of one of these lines with the white squares in. So I can then use that as an indicator to put on my next piece. I need to make sure, because I'm cutting in a single layer, that I flip my pattern piece over. I'm going to check my grain line, and I'm going to use that notch to match up with this horizontal line. If you're matching up the out seam, you won't be able to match up the inseam quite the same, but it's probably best to go for your out seam as the one that's noticeable. This one will be on your inside leg. If you match up the hip notch, then your out seam should have the dominant stripe running across. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the same on the inseam, but you'll get a pleasing effect on the out seam. Now it's time to set up our machine, which is super simple for flannel, and we're just going to take a look at sewing and seam finishing. I've got a universal needle in, a Gutterman thread, and I'm set up with stitch length 3, but you might like to use 2.5. I prefer 3. And I've got a regular tension on my machine because I'm just sewing with cotton. I'm going to sew up a test piece, so I'm not pattern matching or anything. I'm just testing out the thickness of the fabric with the setup of the machine. You will find with brushed cotton it's a little bit sticky because the fuzzy texture will stick to the fabric, so it's when you want to move your seams closer together, you might have to just keep peeling the fabric apart. If you're using a single colour brush cotton, that's fine, but what it might do if you're trying to pattern match is it can grip the fabric and move it into different positions. If you're sewing with a plain fabric, then you might find that you don't really need to pin as much as usual because the fabric is sticking together. But if you're sewing with a pattern, then you might want to use pins to help you with a pattern match. Flannel will take a back tack, so start and end your seams with a few forwards and back stitches. That will stop the seam coming undone, and we'll take a test seam. You're looking to ensure there's no skip stitches. If there are, that means you need a new needle, and that you've got an even stitch length on both sides. Always check the seam when you peel it open. If your stitch length is too long, you'll see the stitches in between. If it's too short, it will sort of pucker up and make a bouncy seam. Cotton flannel presses like a dream, so I'm going to go and press that seam open. And because of that superb pressing quality, that's what makes it really good for shirts. You can make cuffs cleanly, button bands, pockets, collars, all dress details, because that seam is now completely flat. To finish the seam, you can choose your favourite method because this cotton behaves itself, so you can either use a zigzag or a straight seam turn. So there you fold back the seam allowance once and sew it with a straight stitch. You can also use an overcast stitch or overcast foot if you have one, or of course you can overlock your edges. But this straight seam turn looks really neat, and again it's perfect for shirt making. You can also French seam your shirt so that you get, if you're wearing your shirt open, you get a really nice seam on the inside if you get a flash of the side seam. Next up, we're going to take a look at a few closures, buttonholes, zips, and because this flannel is so soft, then it makes really nice elasticated waistbands, and anywhere where you've got an elasticated cuff, it's really nice and cozy. If you want to make buttonholes in flannel and your flannel is quite a loose weave, then even if your facing has an interfacing on the back, you might choose to put a second piece of interfacing here so that you get a little bit more stabilisation for creating your buttonholes. I've also chosen to place mine in these squares, so I've switched my white thread out for a blue thread because I think that looks a little bit better. If you want to put a zip in flannel, then you might also find interfacing is useful for putting down the edges of where your zipper tape is going to go, especially if you've got a looser weave one. If you're making a winter dress, for example, you might want to make sure that your zip in the back isn't puckered or wrinkled up. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of these buttonholes. I took a few frames of my hemming when I completed this top, so let's take a look at that. When you're hemming flannel, you can choose your favourite method. So I like to use a hot hemmer. It gives a really good clean press. I've obviously got the checks that I'm working with here as well. And I'm going to use a double folded hem just because the flannel that I've got today frays a little bit more than just a usual cotton, but you can choose your favorite hemming technique. You can find lots of techniques in this video here. This video will give lots of different ways that you can hem, and you'll need to choose one that works best with the fabric that you're working with. With flannel, you can overlock the edge and turn it once, or you can do a double folded hem. Once it's pressed, it's really nice and neat, and that won't fray and it'll last a long time. Stylistically, whatever you choose for your lower hem, you would ideally want to repeat on any other parts of your garment. So in my case, the sleeve hems for my pyjamas. You can make the Carolyn pyjamas in lots of different fabrics and you'll get a very different look each time. So I've got a cozy winter set here, but if you use the fabric guide, then you can compare different fabrics and you can choose the fabric that you want with the characteristic that you want to match the pattern that you're wanting to make. This is the Minerva fabric guide. It's a comprehensive guide to fabric fibres and base cloths. It's not a project book, it's a book all about the background information on fabric. At the start, you'll find information on how fabric is made, the differences between stretch fabrics and woven fabrics. It's a really useful page here on weight versus thickness, because quite often you can't feel the hand of your fabric unless you've had a sample. And this way you'll be able to compare some of the details on the description with the weight descriptions and the weight of the fabric. In the second section, this is where you'll find out all the different information about fibre types. Here you'll be able to get a bit of background detail on why the fabric behaves in the way that it behaves. And of course, in some fabrics, you'll get a mix of more than one fibre, and each one of those will bring something different to the fabric. In the final section of the book, there's an alphabetical order chapter of fabric types. So this one is drill. There's some really inspirational photography throughout the book. You can follow the maker listed underneath, and if you want to go and explore a fabric further, you can use the QR code on the page, scan this, and it will filter all the fabric type to your search. You won't be searching through thousands and thousands of fabrics that you don't want to look at. You can just hone in on the ones that you do. You can find out more information on this over on our YouTube channel. There's a video from Vicky and one from me where we go into the folder in a little bit more depth. I hope you have enjoyed today's video on flannel. If it's a fabric that you have been thinking about, do head over to our website and take a look at the fabrics there. You can make a free account there, share your makes, take some photographs, give a little description and show us which patterns you've been pairing with which fabrics. It really is a fantastic inspiration to the sewing community. We're on F of our Fabric Masterclass, so there's lots more to come. So do tune in for more of our Fabric Masterclass very soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.